Alright, you're welcome to our Tailwind CSS version 4 Crash Course 2025. I'm David, your notes, your regular 5-star rated instructor, and I'm excited to walk through this course. Now, Tailwind is a utility-first framework that's designed for rapid building of custom user interfaces directly within your HTML. So you don't really need to leave your HTML and start creating some kind of CSS external style sheets, defining all of those CSS classes and IDs and all of those things now just to style things in the front end. Okay, so and again, unlike traditional frameworks like Bootstrap that we force you to use their pre-built components like buttons, cards, nav, modals, and all of those things. Now, Tailwind gives you comprehensive set of tools. Okay, we call them low-level utility classes that directly correspond to the individual CSS properties. Okay, so you really do not need to start writing those CSS rules and the properties. Okay, outside of your HTML, so you could do everything just within your HTML. So what am I saying? You could combine the HTML and CSS in one file, okay, like that, now without leaving the comfort of your HTML interface like that. And that gives us speed in development, and it's kind of useful if you are working with some kind of React or Next.js project. Okay, but yes, some persons will say it's going to be stressful excuse me, if you're working with just HTML. Okay, before I proceed, I'm going to say if you're watching this from YouTube, please ensure that you turn up, in case maybe the quality of the video, you find out that the quality is kind of low, just go over to settings here, okay, and then go to quality. You will see we have different qualities here. It by default it might be in auto, and when in auto now it might be streaming with a lower quality. Maybe if you click outside now, you see that okay, it's not even showing now. It might be streaming with maybe 360 pixels or 360p quality. Okay, and you might want to change it now to a higher resolution so that you gain quality. I've had some kind of report that some students say the videos are not clear and so on, so make sure you stream with a higher resolution now. Okay, so and if you are using some platform like let's say if you are using something like 4K video downloader, you could always get that online. Okay, so 4K video downloader can help you to download in high resolution. But if you're streaming online, ensure you do this now, and also don't also forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. It's very important. Okay, so that because this and many more videos that I'm going to be making are going to be series based. Okay, so and most of them are going to be available only on the YouTube channels. Okay, so you want to ensure that you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out any stuff like that. Right now, back to the class now. Now, when working with Tailwind CSS, there are two common ways of using Tailwind CSS in modern development. Although there are much more than two. Okay, there are many ways. Okay, then there are different use cases. There are different places you can use it. Okay, but we just pick these two as our best. Okay, so as it directly concerns our holistic full stack development course. Okay, so number one is using Tailwind within React.js, and if you've taken our React.js course before, I think you should know what create React app is. Okay, so that's CRA, create React app. Okay, now if you build your front end with React, now you can do the styling using Tailwind. Okay, so you could use Tailwind for your React application. Okay, and also if you are not building your React app using this CRA, maybe you are using the latest the latest recommended way of installing React now, which is Vite. Okay, Vite is probably, it's almost spelled as Vite, but the real pronunciation is Vite. Okay, so now if you are using Vite, okay, so you can also use Tailwind to style such project. Okay, so that's the first way of using Tailwind. Okay, or the first use case. The second use case is going to be for a Next.js project. Now in this course, I'm going to talk about the difference between the Tailwind version 4 and version 3. Okay, so if you've taken our Tailwind CSS course before, or our previous Next.js course, now we used Tailwind version 3. But indeed, the aim of this crash course is number one, to teach you the how to install React using Vite, and number two, to show you the difference between Tailwind version 3 and version 4, and also to give you some deep dive into what Tailwind version 4 have for us, and then we'll scale up from there as well. So there's a whole lot for this for you in this course anyway. So that's why I made it a kind of series based. Okay, so we're going to handle the introduction and then set up for setting up with Vite. Okay, and then we'll handle Next.js setup also, and we'll look at what's new in version 4. We'll do some custom. We'll look at some custom themes and every other thing there. We'll also look at how to achieve responsive designs for Tailwind apps, and also the DaisyUI as well. So DaisyUI is like a framework or a plugin for Tailwind CSS. You know, when working with Tailwind CSS now, like I said initially, it's not like Bootstrap that you can just grab let's say button or navbar and all of those UI components that you really want now. So Tailwind gives you tools that enables you to build things the way you want now. But people kind of miss the those pre-built components stuffs now that Bootstrap have, and that is why we now have DaisyUI to fill in that gap. We're going to look at each of those stuff now, and at the end of the day now we're going to be building some kind of chat UI, and maybe we'll take one or two projects that we're going to lay our hand on. Maybe we'll work with some of them from here. Okay, so I always tell people, when you're working with some frameworks like front-end framework, now get some easy project like this to try your hands with. Okay, so if you're working, even if you're working with CSS, Flexbox and Grid, if you're working with Bootstrap and Tailwind and all of those things, now you could try to work with all of this. As simple as this thing look like this now, if you can achieve this now, you have conquered more than half of your problem. Okay, so try to achieve some of these things. Now you can see now this have both the mobile view and the desktop view. So if you can achieve some of these things now using Tailwind CSS, now there is no user interface that you cannot achieve. Okay, so if you want this file, please don't forget to DM me. I'm going to send it to you. Okay, so if you're an existing full stack development student, chances are you already have this already, because I guess I sent it across to every of my students. So, and also this Word document that we're going to, for every of my course, I always make a comprehensive Word document. Okay, so if you need this Word document, also send me a WhatsApp DM. Okay, and I'll get it across to you. Okay, so by the time we're done with everything about Tailwind CSS, we should be able to build an admin dashboard now. And then what's next now? Then we'll dive straight to continue with our Next.js course, whereby we'll be able to integrate an admin dashboard we'll be building with Tailwind to our Next.js application, because most of the time you're going to see that again and again in real life project. Okay, so you have the project with this front end, and then you're going to have an admin dashboard that admin users can log into. So we're going to see all of those stuff like that now, and then be able to move on from there. Because so from this point onward in our full stack development course, every project that we're going to be building is going to be based on Tailwind CSS and Next.js. Okay, so if you've not gotten to this point, please don't forget to take the course gradually from the beginning until you get to the stage now, so that everything we're doing don't seem like jargon to you. All right, okay, so I said you can use Tailwind for a Vite project. Okay, that's for a React project, and you can also use it for Next.js project. Okay, so why are we talking about Vite? Okay, so initially for React students now, you are used to CRA. That's how you create your React application. Okay, well, if you go to the official documentation for React now, what you have there now is Vite. Okay, and what is Vite? Vite is a modern way of creating a React application, and it comes as a direct replacement for the CRA, or this Create React app. And it is a kind of JavaScript build tool that's kind of simplify and speeds up the way we build and develop front-end web applications. And one thing about Vite is that even if you have a bunch of big dependencies, okay, the runtime, let's say if you come over here now, you see some kind of dependency for those of you that are doing Next.js and React. Okay, so if you go to your package.json file, you're going to see the dependencies that you're working with. Okay, so the dependencies, they are actually packages that you are working with. Okay, so and all of them you have them in your node modules folder like that. Okay, so even if you have a ton of dependencies that you're working with, the time to run the dev server does not change. Okay, so when you kind of modify the source code, changes will be reflected instantly without losing the state of the application, and that's what we call HMR, or hot model replacements. Okay, you'll be hearing some of those stuffs again and again. One thing I love about Vite application over CRA is the project size, apart from the project time. Okay, so the project size, projects created with Vite tends to have smaller file size than those created with CRA. So you have two options of creating an application now. You either use React, whereby you install with either Vite or CRA, or you use what, Next.js, okay, which is the future of React. Okay, so if you're working with Next.js now, you don't need to bother about Tailwind installing, because Tailwind comes with Next.js installation by default. Okay, but for React project, you will need to kind of do that installation manually and all of those stuffs. I'm going to see both of them throughout this course. We're going to install with Vite and install with and then work with Tailwind in our Next.js application. Now again, if you don't have this documentation, like all of my courses, I always like to use create a documentation that's going to stand as a guide for my students. Okay, so if you don't have this documentation, ensure you DM me. So right now we're going to use this documentation to set up a new React project using Vite. We're not going to be using CRA. Okay, so we're going to be creating a React project using Vite. Okay, now, and of course that's going to be a Tailwind CSS project. Okay, so that's why we have this stuff like this. Now every other thing that you're doing with React is still going to work in this project. Okay, so now just follow this simple documentation. If you have this documentation, you could just copy this and paste in your terminal. But the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a new project folder here on my drive D. Where's my, I think I have a Tailwind CSS before. Okay, let me just go ahead and then let's say I want to put it in this React folder. Okay, so I want to put it in this React folder, so I'll just go ahead and then open this React folder in VS Code like this now. Okay, so that React folder is going to be my project folder. Okay, these are existing projects. Yes, I trust this. Okay, so now if you go back to your terminal, ensure that your terminal is pointing to your project folder. You see React. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, if you go over to the actual React documentation or Tailwind documentation, let's go back to the Tailwind CSS documentation. I think it should give us the directives also on how to create a new Vite project. Go here and then go to docs. Go over to docs. Okay, so you see it now. Create Vite at latest. Okay, my project is the name of the project. Okay, so it's the same thing we have there. Okay, but in this case now we're going to use this dash template React. Okay, so take note of this double dash that we have here. We have first set of dash here and then second set of dash template React. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this guy now. That's exactly what I want to use now. I'll copy this now to my, let's close this one first, and then I'm going to paste it right here now. Create npm create Vite. Okay, so create Vite at latest. It's going to use the latest version. Okay, so this is going to be the name of the app I'm creating. I'm creating Tailwind CSS 4. So I'm going to use oh, I think my network. Okay, let's see, why is it showing this now? Let's change this first of all. Sometimes your terminal could make you fall into some kind of errors. Okay, so sometimes just changing your terminal is going to save you all of those stress. Okay, create Vite at latest blah blah blah. So strike enter and then let's see what we have there. Okay, so you see now that I'm using git bash. Okay, so say need to install the following packages, create Vite blah 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 blah. Okay, to proceed, yes, so just enter to accept it there. So you see how fast it is now. Okay, so if you go over here now, you see that it has been created. You have the public folder, you have src and all of those things now, but you see there is no node module folder here. It's okay, so if you go over to the project root also, React now, that's where we created it. Now you're going to see Tailwind CSS4. That's the project, okay, that's one to work with. Okay, so now it has been created. So what we need to do now is to reopen our VS Code now to ensure that we are pointed to just this folder, just this project folder, and not the entire parent folder. Okay, so we just go over here and then open folder. Let's go to open folder and we'll open that again. So go over to where we have it now, React now. That's where we're coming from now. So we're going to select this actual project that we just created now, which is the Tailwind CSS4, and I will say select. Okay, so it's going to turn off every other thing except this new one that we just created now. All right, so and that's exactly what we want now. So now if you go over to your terminal again, now you're going to see exactly that now. So you see React Tailwind. Okay, so and this is still opening in PowerShell. That's the one that threw an error a while ago. So I'm just going to go over to my git bash. Okay, so I prefer using git bash or command prompt. Okay, so whichever one. So if you just want to have a view of where you are now, so you can use the command prompt. Okay, so that you can always see that you are in the right folder. Okay, so both git command prompt and git bash, both of them are going to work now. All right, now I'm a fan of documentation. Okay, some people always ask, how do I cram code? Don't cram code. Okay, so if you have where it is documented, go ahead and then make use of it, as long as you know what you are using, because every now and then things keep changing. Okay, so you always want to make use of what is latest. Okay, so now you could see, so this cd my project, which is the project that was just created now, is what we've just done. This one just means change direction, and we've just changed our direction. So the next thing is going to install this. All right, so and that is exactly what we have here in the documentation as well. So and this is the name of the folder, blah 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 blah. Okay, so now so I stated here that I should follow what we have in the documentation, and that's the same thing we have. So you could copy from here. So npm install Tailwind CSS. Okay, so want to install Tailwind CSS, and then this now, and that is what we have in the documentation. So this is it now. So just copy this now and go over to your code. Just follow everything you have there step by step. Right click on it to paste it, and then you strike enter. Then it's going to install this for you. So just hold on. So it's going to take a while, so just hold on. Okay, you can see the first time we installed it, now node modules was not installed. Now it just set up the project folder, but now you can see node modules is here now, and the packages have been installed. Okay, so everything is going to be in our package.json file as well. So it's still installing, so allow you to finish. Okay, oh, it's completed right now. Okay, now with this, now if we go over to our package.json file, now we should have Tailwind CSS as a dependency. You can see it now. We have Tailwind CSS now as a dependency. Of course, we have your React DOM like that now. So every new dependency that you are installing is going to enter into this place. Okay, so if you are used to React, if you've done React before, you already know what all of these things are. Okay, and if you are new to it, sorry, you need to go back, and you can start from halfway. Okay, so the next thing now, we are done with this number 2. So the number 3 now is to go to our Vite config file and then add the 2 blue mark lines from the Tailwind documentation. Okay, so you go over to our Tailwind config now, our Vite config, sorry now. So this is our Vite config now, and here is where you add the plugins. Okay, so you go over to the Tailwind config now. So these are the yeah, this is a Vite config.ts. Here it says .ts. Our own is .js now because we are using JavaScript now. This one is assuming that we are using TypeScript. TS means TypeScript. Okay, but we are using JavaScript. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to copy this first one here. This first import. Okay, so import Tailwind from this. Okay, Tailwind CSS. Okay, so go over here now, and then here we're going to paste that here. And then the next thing now is to go ahead and then grab this Tailwind CSS now and put it as a plugin in this plugin array. Okay, so go over to our plugins array here now. You see here we have just React as a plugin there now. So we can put this one here, separate it with comma. Okay, so we have Tailwind CSS and we have React as plugins there for Vite. All right. So for those of you that are trying to create a React project using Vite, and so you could see it's simple. Okay, we're only trying to extend the functionality of the Vite project by starting it with Tailwind CSS. It's practically straightforward. Okay. Now the last but not the least thing I'm going to do for Tailwind CSS to work in our newly created Vite project now is to import the CSS. Okay, so it's important. And both my documentation here and the official documentation says the same thing. I say here, you're going to be importing it into your global CSS file. So whatever is your global CSS file, you're going to be just copy this code now. You see at import Tailwind CSS, and that's the same thing you have in the official documentation as well. So you say import the Tailwind CSS. Okay, so right, so at import same with CSS, so you could just copy it from here or from my document. Now I always love my own documents. Okay, so copy it from here and then go over to your global CSS now, and your global CSS is going to be in your source src folder. Okay, so you go to your src folder, and then right here now you have two CSS files now, app.css and index.css. So go ahead and then put it in your index.css file, and at the very top of the file is where you're going to put it right there. So just paste it right here, and that's it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to run this project from our terminal. So we're going to say npm run dev. Okay, and then all right. Okay, so this is the local host URL. So just copy this now and go over to your terminal and then try to run it. Okay, so you see it now. So so everything is up and running. So if you have this now, know that your installation of Vite project or your installation of React project using Vite, whichever name you want to call it now, because in the end it's a React application you want to create. Okay, so it's all correct. Okay, so this is just some sample to show you that everything is working perfectly. Okay, so you could go ahead and then modify some of these stuffs here, and then of course if you want to do some modification there, now you could let's go over to the app.js now. Okay, so our app.js is where we have all of those stuffs there like that. Now Vite plus React. Okay, okay, let me just put something equal to working. Don't mind me. All right, so we're gonna save this guy here, and you see it now. So everything is working. All right, so you could go ahead and then start deleting some stuff here and then building your UI exactly the way you want it. Okay, now to further test our Tailwind CSS and ensure that it's working, now we're going to implement some Tailwind classes here. Let's go ahead and then maybe let's see what we have here. Click on the Vite and React logo, blah 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 blah. Of course we could go ahead and then delete all of these guys here if we don't really want them. I'm just gonna say hello world. Okay, save it now, and then we have this hello world there. Okay, now you could go over to the Tailwind documentation. You could scroll over to where you have font size under typography to see some things that you could test. Okay, so you could test different fonts there. You could say currently this say hello world. Now we could use different sizes. Okay, so we could use just, let's use this text 6SL here. Now I'm gonna make this a paragraph. Okay, let's make it a paragraph first and see how it look like first. Now a regular paragraph. Okay, so this is a regular paragraph now, so I'm going to style it. I want to increase the font size now, but instead of, let's use class name now, instead of using regular CSS or Bootstrap, of course we are not using Bootstrap yet, I'm going to use Tailwind now, a Tailwind class which is text-6SL. okay, so you see that's the size. So Tailwind CSS is working. Okay, so you can see that we are styling this thing without leaving the comfort of here. Okay, so we did not install Bootstrap and neither are we writing some CSS code, but we are doing all our styling right here. We can also change the text color as well right from here. Okay, and that's Tailwind. So if we want to change the color of the text, either the text or the background, so we could go over here now and then search for color. Okay, let's just control find color. Okay, so control F for find now, so just type color to bring you down to where you have colors now. Okay, so you know this is documentation, so sometimes you don't need to crack your head. As you keep seeing what is available, you will get used to it now. But anyway, using color is quite easy in Tailwind CSS. You either want to add color to either the text or the background. That's primary, okay. But there are other places whereby we can utilize color, okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is to specify where I want to put the color. So I want a color for my text, and then the next thing is to pick the color, exactly the color that you want to use this. So let's pick any color here. I'm just go over here and they say text. So you could just go ahead and then write codes like this now. Text lime blah blah blah. You understand? This is for the text color, and this is background color, background orange 300, like that now, to give you this background. Okay, so you could implement a lot of things now. If you with this now, if you just work with the documentation, you're going to learn a whole lot of things now. So you could go ahead and then practice some stuff like that now, and then see how it works in Tailwind now. But in the next class now, I'm going to go into properly the difference between the Tailwind version 4 and version 3. Because of those that are doing Next.js now, it's going to be important for you. Okay, so in the next class now, I'm going to be working with I'm going to set up another project. It's going to be a Next.js project now, and then there I'm going to talk about the difference between version 4 and version 3 of our Tailwind. All right, don't go away. So make sure, if you've not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you keep up with this course, and then at the end of the day, you're going to be glad you did. Thank you.